sensory memory. Sensory memory means which we see every day and day out while going to office, in the house or outside. We see so many images, but we cannot keep everything in our memory. That is very temporary, but capacity is very high, but storage capacity is very less. We forget, we don't remember. We all trivial matters we cannot keep in our memory. That is sensory memory. But if sensory memory, you will be very selective. Something you may be attracted by something, it will be stored in our temporary short-term memory. It is known as short-term memory. Short-term memory is also lasts for few seconds only, few minutes at the most. It will also go lost. You will be losing that short-term memory also. But short-term memory, if you, how to keep it in a long-term memory? Because by rehearsing, if you are able to repeat it several times, it will be stored in long-term memory. Otherwise, that memory also will get lost. So sensory memory, it will go to short-term memory. Short-term memory will go to long-term memory, provided you repeat it several number of times or you remember it. There is some stimuli which makes you remember long-term, then only it will be stored in our long-term memory. So there are three types of memories. One is sensory memory. That means stimuli received by our sense organs like eyes, hearing and everything. It is very temporary. And short-term memory, it is also very short. And unless we repeat it, rehearse it so many times, it cannot go into long-term memory. That is the nature of memory. But in case of long-term memory, when the information in the long-term memory, once again, there are two types of long-term memories. What are the two types of long-term memory? One is semantic memory, another is episodic memory. What is semantic memory? Semantic memory means we will be reading so many books, facts and figures, data, and all these things will be recorded in the brain. That will be known as semantic memory. Whereas we remember some functions, birthdays, or some incidents in our life, that is known as episodic memory. That is two types of memories we are having in long-term memory. Long-term memory is a long-term memory and there is no limit for its capacity. But the problem is how to recall it. Sometimes we may not be able to recover it. We may forget it. So what are the methods? Is there any method of improving our memory? What are the methods we use to improve our method? There are 3 or 4 methods. One is a link method of Lossy, keyword method, and in our textbook, so many other things are. Link method means we remember some object. With that, we remember that one. If you remember that object, we recollect what we want to see. And for example, you go to a departmental store, you have forgotten. By seeing those items there, what are the items we require for a kitchen? What are the items we require for the bathroom? What are the required for our dining room? Like that, we may be able to recollect it. That is the method. Or sometimes the keyword method. Keyword method, once again, there are 2 types of keyword methods. You remember, you formulate a word, and the first letter of each thing will form a thing which we have to remember. Or you take first letters of that particular thing. For example, Vibgr is there. Vibgr means the 7 colors which we see in the rainbow are remembered. It is very difficult to tell. If you remember the word Vibgr, violet, indigo, brown, orange, like that, all these 7 letters you will be able to recapitulate. That is the keyword method. There are other methods also. Nematics. Nematics means it may be rhythm. some song, some type of thing. If you remember with all the things, we will be able to recapitulate and in the form of rhymes or anything. Similarly, there are other things also they are given yesterday. Madam has not discussed, but things they are all repetition only. Overlearning. Overlearning means this is a big subject. Overlearning means, for example, you learn a particular thing thoroughly, and over means automatically you will be able to do it without your interference also. Just like a priest reciting mantras in our puja, or a driver, our RTC driver driving his vehicle without his automatically these things will happen. This is known as overlearning. And thinking. And very important thing, one thing they have mentioned is, while you want to remember anything, you have to understand the subject, then only you will be able to remember it very well. Organize the material in memory, question. And another method they have given is, when there is a matter, you read it, you put some questions, you try to elicit some answers, then you will remember it very well. Otherwise, it is very difficult. There is a matter, you put why, where, when, how, like this. You try to get answers, then you will be able to remember it automatically. That is another method of remembering things. Last one is PQR method. In the textbook, it is there. PQR method means preview, questions, read, reflect, recite, and review. This is the PQR method. Preview. This is the best method as per our textbook. That means you have to understand, you have to raise, as I told you already, you have to raise some questions and try to get answers and read it and reflect. What is reflection? Some examples you have to find out. Simply reading means we abstract, we will forget. For each thing, there should be a corresponding example also. Then you will be able to remember recital, which we know everything from the childhood we are doing. Reading and reading and reading. 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. If you read it, mind will record it and review it. Finally, after reading certain things, we have to review what we have understood, what is there remaining in our mind, and how much we are able to reproduce it. That review process. This is known as a PQR method. P means preview, Q means questions, R you remember triple R. Recently you must have seen. R means reflect, recite, and review. This is the best method of remembering this. And what are the factors that is affecting the memory of a person? That also Madam has discussed very well. It may be due to some injury to the brain, or some mental retardation, or some disease like Alzheimer's disease or something like that, some interference, and some biological factors, and some amnesia, that is a disease which affects our memory, Alzheimer's disease, and some syndrome is a Korsakoff syndrome or something. These are all diseases which affect the brain cells and brain tissue. And how to recover means it requires some treatment, and it all depends on the severity of the disease and the condition of the patient. By treatment, normalcy to large extent can be restored depending upon case-to-case basis. So basically, reviewing memory. Memory means it is a storage of information by bit, so that it can be retrieved. Short-term sensory memory, short-term memory, long-term memory. And first two memories are very, very short. But without short-term memory, you cannot go to long-term memory. That is, when learning process, short-term memory is important. Directly, one cannot go to long-term memory. By rehearsing number of times, we can store the information in long-term memory. And we have to follow certain technique. And one more thing is, the memory is not totally this one. Memory is not a innate quality. It is acquired by practice and other things. Hereditary factors will be there. Even then, it is not totally hereditary. This is, I think, if I remember correctly, memory is central. if I remember, the memory can be improved by practice and following various types of method. Our memory can be improved, and long-term memory, retrieval. So many sometimes the memory may decay and it may go last. And last but not least, some recency effect and primary effect is also there. Recency effect means we remember the events which happened recently, or sometimes we remember the events which happened first. We remember event first event and last event we remember. We tend to forget events that happened in between. This is known as the recency effect and primary effect. And if you draw a graph, it will be a U-shaped graph. You will get it. This is a recency effect is a very important thing in psychology. Recency effect is nothing but we remember the events that happened very recently, or sometimes first impression when we met the person first time, first when we entered the college first time, when we entered the job first time. These things we may remember also. That is known as the primary effect. So some people may remember primary effect or recency effect. Both the things will be there. We tend to forget what happened in between. That is primary and recency effect is also affects our memory. This is all about memory, which we have discussed in the class. If you have any doubts, please ask. Don't ask me. Please ask the madam. Yes, 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 yes. Rajnikant.
Okay, sir. Thank you.